As the Dalai Lama Tenzin Gyatso approaches his 90th year, a milestone that invites reflection on a life dedicated to peace and the preservation of Tibetan culture, the question of his succession looms large, not just for Tibetans who see him as their spiritual guide and protector, but for the global community that values his message of compassion and non-violence. The continuity of this leadership is paramount to the Tibetan people. The implications of this succession extend far beyond the borders of Tibet, touching upon international relations, human rights, and the very future of Tibetan Buddhism. He has suggested his reincarnation may not appear in Tibet, a land under Chinese control, or even at all, challenging centuries of tradition and raising profound questions about the future of the Dalai Lama lineage. He has also floated the idea of appointing a successor before his passing, a radical break from tradition that underscores his commitment to ensuring the survival of Tibetan Buddhism in a rapidly changing world. This forward-thinking approach is designed to safeguard the spiritual heritage. This is more than a spiritual matter, it's a stand for Tibetan autonomy, a bold assertion of the right to self-determination in the face of political pressure and cultural assimilation. It's a way to shield the institution from political interference, particularly from those who seek to control the selection process for their own strategic advantage. The Dalai Lama is actively working to prevent external manipulation. The Dalai Lama's approach blends tradition with modern pragmatism, even proposing a referendum to let Tibetans decide if the institution should continue, empowering them to shape their own spiritual destiny. This democratic approach is unprecedented. The stakes are global. Will the next Dalai Lama be a true spiritual leader, dedicated to the principles of peace, compassion, and wisdom, or a figurehead chosen by an authoritarian state, a puppet manipulated to serve political agendas rather than the spiritual needs of the Tibetan people? The integrity of the role is at risk. The process of finding his reincarnation is sacred, guided by visions and signs, a deeply spiritual undertaking that has been practiced for centuries, relying on the wisdom of oracles and the guidance of senior lamas. Therefore, any interference is seen as sacrilege by Tibetans, a violation of their most deeply held beliefs, and a threat to their cultural identity. The Dalai Lama's careful planning is his final act of protection, a testament to his unwavering dedication to the Tibetan people and their spiritual heritage. He is aiming to keep the chain of compassion unbroken, ensuring that the values of peace, nonviolence, and wisdom continue to guide future generations. His legacy may be defined not just by his life, but by how he secures Tibet's spiritual future, ensuring that the light of Tibetan Buddhism continues to shine brightly in the world. In stark contrast, China has made it clear, it alone will control the selection of the next Dalai Lama. Through laws like Order No. 5, Beijing claims the right to approve all Tibetan reincarnations, aiming to install a pro-Beijing Dalai Lama to legitimize its rule. The plan is to orchestrate a state-managed search, present a child as the new Dalai Lama, and raise him under party supervision. This strategy, tested with the Panchen Lama, risks splitting Tibetan Buddhism, one Dalai Lama in exile, another endorsed by China. For Tibetans inside Tibet, supporting the exiled Dalai Lama would be dangerous. For China, it's a move to turn a spiritual tradition into a tool of statecraft. The battle for succession is ultimately a fight for Tibet's soul. Will the Dalai Lama remain a beacon of compassion, or become a political puppet? India's bond with Tibet is not just a recent development, it's a connection that stretches back centuries, woven into the very fabric of our shared history. It's a bond rooted deeply in history and a shared spiritual heritage, a confluence of cultures and beliefs that have enriched both nations. The exchange of philosophical ideas, the spread of Buddhism, and the mutual respect for ancient traditions have all played a crucial role in shaping this unique relationship. When the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet, fled Tibet in 1959 amidst immense political upheaval, India, guided by its principles of compassion and humanitarianism, offered sanctuary. This act of refuge allowed the Tibetan community, uprooted from their homeland, to rebuild their lives and preserve their culture in exile, establishing settlements and institutions that have become vibrant centers of Tibetan identity. For decades, India navigated a complex diplomatic landscape, balancing its support for the Tibetan people and their cause, with a cautious approach toward its powerful neighbor, China. However, recent border tensions and escalating geopolitical dynamics have significantly shifted this long-standing stance, prompting a reassessment of India's strategic priorities. Now, Tibet is increasingly viewed as a strategic card for India in its complex relationship with China, a factor influencing its foreign policy decisions and regional security considerations. The outpouring of public support for the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan cause is more visible and vocal than ever before, reflecting a growing sentiment within India. As the host nation to the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government in exile, India carries a unique responsibility and influence in shaping the future of Tibet. India's role in the anticipated succession crisis of the Dalai Lama is undeniably pivotal, carrying significant implications for the spiritual and political landscape of Tibet. The possibility of the next Dalai Lama being identified and recognized within India's borders presents both an opportunity and a challenge. Should this occur, New Delhi will undoubtedly face immense diplomatic pressure and scrutiny from Beijing, which views the succession issue as a matter of its own sovereignty. India's ultimate decision regarding the Dalai Lama's succession will resonate far beyond its borders, carrying profound global consequences for international relations and religious freedom. Standing firmly with the Tibetan people's choice in the matter would serve as a bold and unequivocal statement in support of religious freedom and self-determination on the global stage. India's role has evolved. It is no longer simply a refuge for those fleeing persecution. India has become the primary guardian and protector of Tibet's rich cultural heritage and its very future, a responsibility it carries with both conviction and strategic awareness. A new argument is gaining ground in India. The real border is not with China, but with Tibet. Before 1950, India's northern frontier was with a peaceful, sovereign Tibet, not a militarized Chinese border. This perspective challenges China's legitimacy in Tibet and reframes the border dispute as the result of occupation. By asserting the India-Tibet border, India questions the basis of negotiations with Beijing and strengthens its own territorial claims. This narrative shift keeps Tibet's status alive internationally and puts China on the defensive. For Tibetans, it's validation of their identity and history. When a major power like India adopts this language, it lends credibility to the Tibetan cause. The idea that India borders Tibet is more than strategy, it's a recognition of a suppressed historical truth. In exile scattered across the globe, Tibetans have painstakingly built vibrant communities, often referred to as Little Tibets, havens of culture and tradition far from their ancestral homeland. These communities serve as vital hubs, connecting Tibetans and providing a sense of belonging in foreign lands. These enclaves are places where culture and language are meticulously preserved, passed down through generations, ensuring that the essence of Tibet remains alive. The Tibetan language, a cornerstone of their identity, is taught diligently, and traditional arts and crafts are practiced with devotion. Yet despite the thriving cultural scene, there's a constant sense of longing and impermanence, a deep-seated yearning for a home many have never known. This is especially true for younger generations, the second and third generation exiles, who've only heard stories of their homeland, a place they've never seen. They navigate a complex world, balancing their cherished Tibetan heritage with the realities of life in their host countries. They carry the weighty responsibility to keep their cause alive, to advocate for their people, and to ensure that the world doesn't forget Tibet. Inside Tibet, the struggle to maintain one's identity is a daily battle, fought under the constant gaze of surveillance. Every aspect of life is monitored, and expressions of Tibetan identity are often met with swift and severe repercussions. Even the simple act of displaying a photo of the Dalai Lama, their spiritual leader, can risk imprisonment, a testament to the oppressive environment in which Tibetans live. Religious freedom is severely restricted and cultural practices are suppressed. China's policies are deliberately designed to erode Tibetan culture, to systematically dismantle their unique way of life and assimilate them into the dominant Han Chinese culture. This includes the destruction of cultural sites and the suppression of religious practices. This erosion begins with language in schools, where Tibetan language instruction is minimized or eliminated altogether, replaced by Mandarin Chinese, effectively cutting off future generations from their linguistic heritage. The control extends to monasteries, the heart of Tibetan Buddhism, where monks are subjected to intense scrutiny and political indoctrination, and the traditional monastic education system is undermined. The Dalai Lama's succession is an existential issue, fraught with political and spiritual significance. The Chinese government seeks to control the selection process, aiming to install a puppet leader who will be subservient to their agenda. For exiles, the Dalai Lama represents a unifying anchor, a symbol of hope and resilience. and the continuation of their spiritual tradition. His presence provides a sense of stability and direction in a world of uncertainty. For those inside Tibet, he remains a secret source of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness, whose teachings and blessings are sought in clandestine acts of devotion. The next Dalai Lama is not just a spiritual leader, he is a symbol of survival, a representation of the enduring spirit of the Tibetan people, and a testament to their unwavering commitment to their faith and culture. The process of identifying and enthroning the next Dalai Lama is about more than faith. It's about the future of a people, their right to self-determination, and their ability to preserve their unique cultural heritage in the face of relentless pressure. The outcome of this struggle will ultimately determine whether Tibetan identity endures, vibrant and resilient, or fades into the annals of history, a tragic loss for humanity. Today, Tibet is one of the world's most repressed regions, described as an open-air prison. Surveillance is everywhere. Cameras, informants, and digital monitoring create a climate of fear. Monasteries are tightly controlled, monks forced into patriotic re-education, and spiritual life is hollowed out. Ordinary Tibetans live under constant self-censorship. Even a photo of the Dalai Lama can mean prison. Over 150 Tibetans have self-immolated since 2009, a desperate protest against cultural erasure. Foreign journalists and monitors are barred, allowing China to present a false image of harmony. The reality is a society under siege, its culture and freedom systematically dismantled. Tibet's suffering is hidden behind an information blackout, its people silenced. Once, Tibet's struggle inspired global activism and celebrity support. Today the world's attention has faded, distracted by new crises and China's growing economic power. Nations that once championed Tibet now avoid angering Beijing, prioritizing trade over human rights. International mechanisms have failed, UN resolutions are blocked, and human rights reports rarely spur action. Tibetans feel abandoned, their cause sidelined by global pragmatism. The world's silence is complicity, allowing repression to continue. Tibet's fate is a test of the world's commitment to human rights and cultural diversity. If Tibet is forgotten, the world loses a part of its conscience. The most likely outcome after the Dalai Lama's passing is two rival successors. One, chosen by the exile community, will embody the hopes of a free Tibet. The other, installed by China, will serve as a political tool. This schism will force nations and religious groups to choose sides, risking confrontation with Beijing. Many may opt for ambiguity or recognize China's candidate, further isolating the Tibetan cause. The US has passed legislation supporting Tibetan autonomy and succession, but global resolve is uncertain. For Tibetans, two Dalai Lamas would deepen confusion and pain. Inside Tibet, loyalty to the exile leader would be dangerous. The institution that once unified Tibetans could become a symbol of division. This is Beijing's goal to fracture Tibetan unity and spirit. As Tibet faces this historic crossroads, its survival depends on choices made by both Tibetans and the world. Allowing China to engineer the Dalai Lama's succession would be a collective moral failure. The fight for Tibet is a fight for cultural autonomy and religious freedom, values at the heart of global conscience. The resilience of Tibetans in exile and at home is their greatest strength. The next Dalai Lama, recognized by his people, will be a symbol of endurance, even if he never rules from Lhasa. The world must affirm that the Dalai Lama's succession is a religious matter, free from government interference.